I made a mistake rotationally grazing my cattle, but I think I know the solution on how to fix that. Follow along with me today as I explain that to you. So behind me, I've got my cow field, the paddock that they're in. A paddock, if you didn't know, is the area that you give your cows to eat for usually on my farm about 3 or 4 days. Then I move them off of that and let that area rest for at least a period of 28 days. That way the grass will go back thicker and stronger each time. So right now, the fence line back there and then the tree line on the edge is the section that these cows have. There's also my 2 other mama cows are in there and their calves. So we do have quite a few cows in here, but the grass has gotten extremely tall. I am 6'4", and the seed heads are just about waist high for me. So the solution to fix this though is to graze. So before I give you the solution to fixing this, I'm going to tell you the reasons why in some people's eyes this is a mistake. These right here in front of me, these are seed heads. The cows do not eat this. This will just sit here. They'll pick through this. You can see it in some of my previous videos, my rotational grazing videos, that I have seed heads that the cows just didn't eat. They ate everything else flat to the ground, but they wouldn't eat the seed heads. That's just the way cattle are. They're not going to eat these. Even my sheep refuse to eat the seed heads. Another thing that they're going to say is a mistake is the mashing of the grass, especially through here. You can see it where the cows walk through. When the grass gets so tall, they're going to mash that to the ground. So the reason folks are calling these mistakes is because you're not getting 100% forage conversion on this. What I mean by that is everything that's growing in the field, the cows aren't going to eat. But let me explain to you why I don't consider these mistakes. First off, when they're mashing the grass like they've done through here, this protects my soil and it feeds my soil. Just like when you mow your lawn and you leave a little bit of the thatch, is what they call it in the lawn situation, where they'll leave that there. That's what this does here, just on a more extreme level. It'll get mashed to the ground and it will protect the soil. It actually holds moisture in there. Over the last 4 weeks here in Southeast Ohio, we've had about 5 or 6 inches of rain. It's come in very weird spurts. We had a week and a half period where we had about 3 inches, and then over the last 5 days we've had another 3 or 4 inches. It's been extremely wet during those times, but in the middle there it was very dry. So that's why you want to have the soil protection, because if I didn't have the soil protection, when we get to those dry times and the sun coming out right now, it would bake this. There would be nothing here to protect the soil and hold the moisture in there. If I hold the moisture in there, just like last year, I had a drought on my first year rotationally grazing, and I had more grass than I knew what to do with, even during a drought, because I had soil protection and I kept moving my cattle so that they weren't hurting the grass. They were helping the grass. They were improving the grass. As for the seed heads, the reason why I don't consider this to be a mistake is you have to think about, what does grass grow from? It grows from a seed. So if you don't have any seeds, then how is your grass ever going to expand? Some types of grass, like Bermuda, or your lawn grasses that you use, will spread out on their own without being seeded. Things like orchard grass and a lot of other grasses that we use in pasture need to go to seed to be able to spread themselves thicker throughout the field. And especially clover. Clover is about $4 a pound right now, so if I can let my clover come up and go to seed and reseed itself, and the way that you do that, it's all connected through rotational grazing, because when it goes to seed, when they mash down that grass, the cow's hoof will break open the soil for me, and it'll plant that clover for me. Don't believe me? Watch some of my shorts. I have clover coming up that I never had before. I can show you pictures of the field last year where there was no clover, and this year there's clover coming up, because during the winter I fed hay on those areas and it had clover seed in it. Well, then when they mashed that clover seed into the ground, because they wouldn't eat the seed heads, it planted it for me, and that saves me time and money. But conventional farmers call this a mistake. I don't call seed heads a mistake, and I don't call extremely tall grass a mistake. When they're in the summertime going to be feeding hay, because they've ate all of their grass, because they like to keep theirs about 3 or 4 inches tall, that way, because you'll hear it's in the most vegetative state, they gain the most weight on that grass. Let me ask you this question: would you rather have grass or no grass? What do you think is going to make them gain more weight? Are they going to gain more weight on grass in the summertime or hay in the summertime? I am in the business of feeding grass 365 if I can do that. So yes, sometimes my grass gets a little bit ahead of me. I was hoping that it wouldn't happen this fast. This field the water runs downhill into it, and it's extremely fertile. It's been a cow field for quite a long time. So when the water runs down here and you've got the fertility, that means you're going to get grass very quickly. Last year, I was using my experience of last year during the drought. Well, this year during the wet time, the grass grew back extremely fast and much quicker than what I thought it was going to. It shot up over the period of about a 2 weeks. It went from, 6 inches high to waist high. So next year I know that by May 15th I need to be in this field and have it grazed down. I was pretty close though. I've already went through about, I would say, 40 to 50% of my farm. The other half that I need to get through, the fertility is a lot lower, so I'm letting that grass grow up. That way it'll have that soil protection when I get to it. It's going to have something in there that the cows can mash down. That's going to have some grass going to seed that they'll be able to reseed in there, helping that grass to grow back up. So if you're thinking about starting rotational grazing, you want to start grazing in the spring your strongest fields first, because those are the ones that are going to get away from you, as what conventional farmers would call it. Yes, I would prefer to have my grass in the most palatable state for my cows all the time, but that's just not the way that life works. I would much rather though have them eating the grass than me cutting hay for them and feeding that to them, because I don't think that hay is the optimal feed for cows. I don't think that hay is the optimal feed for cattle. How do I know this? Because when I feed hay to my cows, or in the wintertime I have winter stockpile, which if you didn't know, winter stockpile is just grass like this that I don't graze during the summertime. It might turn a little bit brown, but I leave it on the ground. The cows will eat the winter stockpile before they'll even look at the hay. So to me that means that the cows want the grass. So how can I provide more grass for them? Well, I let it grow taller. Unfortunately in this field it is a little bit taller than what I would have wanted, and I don't have enough cows to get through this section this quickly. So this is a good problem to have though. This means that I need more cows and I need to move them faster. So those are things that I can take care of in the future. The way I'm going to handle this year though is once these cows get through here, areas like this, I'm not sure if it shows up very well on camera, they've ate the non-seed heads down to about ankle high, but then the seed heads are still extremely tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them go through. They will be picky. It'll look more like a a conventionally set stocked field when they're done with it than what it does a rotational grazed field, because they're going to pick and choose what they want. And then once they're done, I'll probably come through with a tractor and just mow it down. But I'll mow it extremely high and just knock the seed heads down, and then the rest of the grass will still not be affected by that, so it'll grow back up. That's what I did in my fields last year. I had this problem last year too, so that's why I have some experience on knowing how to handle this. Last year I only had the 2 steers and the 6 sheep. They weren't really enough to get through it. This year, that's why we ended up buying more cows. I'm hoping to get more calves. That way next spring I'll have more yearlings to be able to put on grass. My problem is right now is the resources. I know what I need, I just don't have enough money, especially with the price of what feeders have gone to be able to drop that much money to to get this grass ate down. But after hopefully selling my feeders this fall and getting some money off of that, getting that return, selling my pigs, getting the return on that investment, once I have those investment dollars back, I'll be able to put more money into keeping this the way that I want to see it. Which what I would want to see is sort of like this. Take about half of these out, where you get a few seed heads, but you also have a lot of this green grass in it. That's where I wanted to get it to, but with the amount of rain, and then it got extremely warm for this time of year. It went from we had a wet period and it was pretty warm, then it got cooler and drier. It was 65, 70, which is not seasonable for this time of year. Well, a few weeks ago. Now it should be in the mid 70s, but at that time it was seasonable, but we weren't getting any rain. But so then it warmed up, it got to about mid 80s, and it has rained 5-6 days in a row. So since it's done that, the grass has grown at least a foot in the last week. So that's why this got away from me. Hopefully in future years I'll have more cows and be able to take care of that. As I was saying, hopefully in future years I'll be able to afford more cows and to be able to keep my grass at a more manageable level. Right now, I'm not taking any money off of the farm. I'm investing all of the returns that I get from the farm. I've actually been working the last 4 or 5 days too, so that's been part of the reason why the grass has gotten so tall on me, because I wasn't able to get them moved as quickly as I wanted to. Unfortunately, that's just the way it's going at this point in time. Making the YouTube videos, I'm doing all I can here on the farm, and I'm working off the farm. So eventually one day we're going to see a ton of progress from this. But don't let people discourage you. A lot of my neighbors in the spring last year, when they saw what I was doing, thought my fields didn't look so good. They thought I was a little bit crazy for spending all this time and then having fields that looked really shaggy. But then in the wintertime, when it was December, January, February, and my cows were just out grazing grass, and I did have to feed some hay. I had 6 sheep and 2 steers, and I fed 15 bales, square bales. So if you're familiar with those, they're about 50 pounds a piece. I fed about 15 of those all winter. I'm very proud of that fact. This was my first year using rotational grazing, and I didn't have as much grass as I had. So, fun fact, beginning of the year, people thought I didn't know what I was doing and that I was ruining my fields grazing this way. By the end of the year, this field is actually my neighbors. They saw what we were doing, and I asked them, I said, hey, you know, right now you're just having somebody mow that. Would you mind if I brought my cattle in there and actually improve the way that field looks? So they said, sure, why not? It's connected to my farm. It worked great. I was just able to bring my cow straight onto here. It already had fence on it. It was a perfect situation for me. And I'm helping that landowner be able to manage their grass and make their property better in the long run. So this is what the point I'm trying to get across though. Don't get discouraged. Rotational grazing works. Regenerative ag works. Conventional farmers are going to make fun of you. They're going to tell you that you're crazy. They're going to, oh, okay, well, hopefully that works for you. You're going to get a lot of those kind of comments, or, man, that's a lot of work. But then when you see them taking their time to fill up their tractors, get on their mower, and mow down the hay, ted the hay, bale the hay, then they have to throw it on the wagons, unload it in the barn, and then they have to sell it or bring it out all winter to feed to their cattle. Just remember, all you have to do all year round when you're rotationally grazing is just move the fence. You just got to keep your cattle moving. So to me, it makes way more sense. Yeah, occasionally you're going to have to throw out some hay, but what I was doing, I was still rotationally grazing. I would set them up for 4 days. They'd rotationally graze for 2. If they didn't have enough grass by that point, I'd throw them out some hay, leave them in there for a little bit, let them work on my fields. So the hay I was feeding was going to good use. I wasn't wasting it, even though, again, in their eyes, I was wasting it because I was feeding hay and it was falling on the ground. The ground is not a bad thing. We want to feed our ground here. We want to have good soil. So those are the things you just have to, you can't listen to your neighbor that's conventional farming. You can't read the conventional books. You can't go to the FFA and 4-H and expect them to understand what you're doing. Not that I have anything wrong with those folks. They feed me. That's what I'm eating right now because my animals are still growing. So I don't have anything wrong with them. I just wish they would be more accepting of some new ideas and try to listen and look at what we're doing and how well this works and how much better it helps the soil and it helps the animals to be able to be raised this way. Again, in my eyes, it's not a mistake, but to their eyes, it's going to be a mistake. I appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this video. I've been up all night. I just got off work, so I do need to go inside and get some sleep. Thank you for watching. If you watched it this far, please subscribe to the channel and have a great day.